right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. And I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and not joined with me today is the captain, Mr. Andy Full. Andy is pretty busy today. He's picking up the old rig, getting it out and ready for open water here in New York. Things are finally buzzing here in the Northeast, and it has me sad that I am in here working, and I was getting pictures sent to me all while I was at Santee Cooper last week, which was fine because Santee Cooper, there's big ones. But also it's just, you kind of have that personal feeling inside of like your pets at home are being caught and it's not being caught by you. So I'm excited to start fishing here in New York. Andy's getting the boat out, and hopefully Andy here will be starting to fish soon. I know he's got guide trips coming up. With that being said, I know he does have limited days left available. If you reach out to him, if you want to get on some big old Lake Erie smallmouth, I'm sure he can try to fit you in somewhere. But cool show today. We got Mr. Austin Neary from Dream Catchers Fishing joining us. We're going to be talking about a whole laundry list of things that I wanted to talk about originally, but then also things that I learned literally 5 minutes ago as we were discussing offline. So we'll incorporate that throughout the show. But really fast, before we bring Austin on here, Omnia Fishing is running a pretty cool deal right now where you can get a gift card for real purchases. So like if you spend between $99 and $189, you get a $25 gift card. If you spend between $189 and $349, $50 gift card. You guys will see it if you go to omniafishing.com. Like if you're going to be getting a bunch of reels in and spending like $500, say, you're going to get a $150 gift card to Omnia Fishing. So pretty wicked cool deal. Head over there, and obviously we have our codes that are down in the show notes. If you guys want to take advantage of that, if it's your first time ordering with us at Omnia Fishing, you can use Series 15, get yourself 15% off your entire order. So check that out. Definitely take advantage of it, especially for my folks that are still stocking up for spring. For my Midwest folks, it looks like you guys are almost out of the gate here. I know there's some ice a little bit here and there, but it looks like it's about open water season for everybody, which is it's the greatest time of year. We call it the KVD season because everybody can go out with a hook and catch a bass. So it's an awesome time to be fishing. Get out there, and without further ado, let's bring in our guest today, Mr. Austin Erie. What's going on, man?
What is happening, dude? Look, I kind of feel so spiritual. I got like a halo above my head right now.
Glowing. You're glowing today.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. What is happening?
Not much, dude. It's obviously this is Friday's episode. People are enjoying it, and we're recording here on a Thursday morning. And dude, I gotta say, I like these morning episodes. I think I got to get back in the swing of doing this because I got my coffee here. You got those new day vibes, you know.
Come on. Hey, I had a really good buddy that says if you beat the sun to sunrise, you already won the day. So I like to get everything done in the morning. And then obviously coming from a fishing guy background, people are like, oh, it was such a grind. I had to wake up at 7 for like their normal day job. And I'm like, I'm a guide. I wake up at like 4:30 every morning. And I don't even know a different life at this point. I don't even set alarms, like red eye flights. It's whatever. I pretty much don't even sleep.
Oh, dude, are you like are you a flyer that like you got to fly at like 5 or 6 in the morning?
I can fly whenever. I tell you this, I have a wife and a child, which means I don't like flying early in the morning because that usually means I'm going WWE, like, get in the truck. Oh, Kyle, stop crying, But
that's a good point.
It don't matter when I fly, dude, but that's just the life of a fisherman. I was actually do you know Emil Wagner?
I feel like I know the name, but I can't put a face to it.
Emil's a super stick. I'm actually at one of my good buddies' house, business partner right now, and I'm down around Lake Lanier. Emil, he's like the last 2 years, I don't think he's finished outside of the top 5 on every BFL on Hartwell and Lanier. And anyways, he's a guide on Lanier, and we were meeting up last night, and he's like, dude, I'm like full scale zombie mode, going to bed at like 12:30 from rig and tackle and waking up at like 4. And I'm like, respect, bro, because I've been there.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just speaking from having Andy here on the show, and Andy, he was living like basically 5 minutes down the road from me. Now he's about 20 or so. He just got a new house. Nice. From the guide life, like I tell you, it ain't no joke. Like in regards to if you're gonna do it and do it well, you're gonna be team no sleep for a little while.
Oh my gosh, it's brutal. I mean, like I have a child that's 2 years old. My wife's pregnant with number 2 right now, and it was like it was kind of
Congrats, man.
overwhelming how much I was on the water. And I never wanted to be, and listen, I've got a great relationship with my parents, but my parents were business professionals. So they were always traveling. And I really was kind of raised by my grandparents. And, my parents would still make sports games and stuff. But as a fishing guide, and my son's 2 years old, like, he's like, Daddy, go fish. I want to go fishing with you. And I'm like, Isaac, like, dude, I had a morning trip, an afternoon trip, and like I don't want to go fishing, dude. Like
Yeah.
so it's a grind, man. It's a grind to know other, which is why I've come up with a little business idea for some people to use.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that heavy. So
Yeah.
people should be, obviously people be tuning in here. But really fast before we get into that, Jazz, is you're new to the show. And for everybody that's new, our first time guests, we always like to throw it back. You
Okay.
preluded it a little bit, but like back to the OG days, the first bass you caught. Who's at fault for this lifelong addiction?
Well, so my dad is a fish head, man. He always loved fishing. He was kind of what I would say just an avid angler. He'd like to go out and throw, chicken livers and catch catfish. He'd like to go throw a rattle trap and catch some bass. But I was
Fish head.
born on Lake Wiley in South Carolina. So from a little boy, I mean, literally from when I can remember, I was walking, dude. I was out fishing, catching little brim and stuff off of our dock. And anyways, dude, we ended up moving to Maryland, and I was a competitive athlete. I love playing baseball. I love basketball, football, everything. But I also like, competitive bass fishing because I'd learned what it was. Dad had actually created a junior bass fishing team in the state of Maryland. And dude, this is no joke. I'm fishing a golf course pond one day behind the house, and I catch a giant on a Konami. Do you remember the Konami baits? Like, it was Gary Yamamoto's son made Konami baits.
Yeah, I remember seeing. I've never owned one, but I've seen
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it was a little cuttail worm. It was like the original cuttail worm. I'm using a cuttail worm on a drop shot. I catch this 6-pounder, and this older dude is like running by, jogging, and he's like, we'll start just wigging out, like, oh my gosh, that's a giant bass. That's so sick. And I'm like, this dude's nuts, and I can tell he loves fishing. Anyways, he pulls his flip phone out. He's taking pictures, and he says, "Hey, my name's Eric. My name's Eric Galasso. I live just down the road from you, man. I'm a diehard fish head." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "You need to come to my basement and see all of my lures." And I have my walkie-talkie, and I like buzz my mom, and I said, "Mom, I just caught a big bass at the pond. This man's taking a picture. He lives right down the road. He wants to take me to his basement." And my mom's like, "What the, like, no,
Yeah.
you are not going to some random stranger's basement, right?" But he like got on the walkie-talkie. He's like, "Oh no, I'm your neighbor. Like, come on down. You can come too. I want to show Austin my fish and stuff." And anyways, it was epic Eric. He was literally not like right next door, but the next door down. He lived
Man.
a casting distance away from me. And dude, he kind of took me under his wing. Like I said, my dad loved to fish. My dad loves to fish to this day. But Eric is kind of that next level bass fisherman, kind of in tune, very fishy guy, understands fish movement, fish pattern.
Yeah.
And he took me under his wing. And dude, like literally from a little boy all the way through college, I played baseball all through high school, all through college. I started the fishing team at Western Carolina University. I ended up getting hurt playing baseball. And then in the college series, we finished second at Watts Bar the first year, like our first ever tournament. And then the next year, we won on Lake Norman. In college, literally, I only fished 2 years of college. We qualified for every national championship,
Heck
and
yeah.
had some great finishes and everything. But Eric was kind of that fishing mentor, business mentor, life coach, and man, just an awesome guy. He is somebody who really, when I tell people he puts others before himself, that is like the epitome of his life. And and that's what I've learned that from him. Like, hey, put others before you. He has a very abundance mentality. I think in our industry there's a lot of scarcity mentality. Like, there's not enough success to go around.
Yeah.
But I believe there is, and I believe that if you help others, it will come back to you. And that's even why I started Dream Catchers. When I think about like the epitome of my guide business, Dream Catchers, it's all about like helping people reel in their dream catch, whether that's being an entrepreneur in the industry, whether that's somebody that's being a tournament professional, whether you want to reel in your dream fish, whatever. Like, everybody has a dream catch. So anyways, man, that was like the start all the way progression to kind of where I'm at now. Did I answer every question that
Yeah.
you were eventually going to ask
You,
me.
went through the whole list. So now we can wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Appreciate y'all.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Dude, that's awesome. Because like we said briefly offline, we've had Eric on the show before, the old silver fox.
The
And
silver fox.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Dude, I mean, you can't meet the guy either online or in person and not like get that feeling of just straight up pure positivity, like just
Passion.
passion, enjoyment
Yeah,
of the sport,
no
and just
doubt.
like there's some people you meet and you're like, okay, I can tell this is kind of like a little fake, but like
Yeah.
it's forced. But then you meet him and it's like, holy shit, this guy's just excited all the damn time, like for
Yes,
everything. And then
literally, man.
fishing, and especially like I could listen to this dude talk about baits
Oh my
forever.
gosh,
Because
literally.
it's like, oh my god, you would not imagine this bait. Check this out, and like, dude, it's so
Some of
cool.
the stuff, some of the stuff he turned me in like onto in within the regards of like baits and stuff before they ever went mainstream is unbelievable. In fact, I still have a little, kind of put back collection of baits that like nobody will ever get out of me from
Got
Epic
some
Eric
juice.
that are just, they're unbelievable. And like they're moderately mainstream. No one really talks about them that absolutely slaughter fish. And it's a little different fishing now because he's up there, Upper Bay, Potomac River, that deal.
Right.
And then he fishes with a good friend of mine, Scooter Lilly, kind of
Mhm.
on the east coast of North Carolina and Virginia and kind of central Virginia and stuff. And we're in the mountains, right? Highland Reservoir. So our fishing is very different now. But dude, anytime I go back to grass fisheries or anything, I'm like, I'm dialing into my Epic Eric stash.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I mean, obviously, big shout out to old Eric. I mean, I think even if you don't know the guy, if you follow along, you can kind of understand the mindset of always looking at the positives, always keeping an open mind. Exactly what you just alluded to, where it's like
Yeah.
be good to people, and if you do that and you consistently do that, it will come full circle.
Dude,
That
our last conversation was last night. We spent 30 minutes talking about what we put out into the world, we get back from the world. And if you put out negativity, then brother, negativity is going to follow. If you put out positivity, dude, crap just happens and positivity follows you. And we had a full 30-minute conversation, man, that was like really deep, introspective, talking about it, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's just a next level guy. And when I think about my life, like, wow, like people that have made huge impacts. Eric is literally like a second father to me. And my dad and I are really close, but Eric is like, dude, just one of those guys, man. So absolute stud. Love him to death.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. But where along that line did you decide, hey, I want to be a full-time fishing guide?
Yeah, man. So really, Eric always had talked about, like, man, you listen, like you're going to have a family, you're going to have a life. And, you've got to provide for them. Like that's like Eric's a super stud. He's got great kids, Meg and Max. I literally watched them grow up. And my dad too is like, dude, you're gonna have a professional career, whatever it is. But both of them talked about if they had to do it over again, they would try to figure out how to make it work fishing. And my dad said, if you fish for a living, you'll never work a day in your life. And then I'm like, all these old men, when they retire, guess what they want to do?
Fish.
They want to go fishing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I pretty much want to retire at age 19 and never work a day in my life,
Yeah.
So, no, I had gotten hurt playing baseball. And then, I was there in Western North Carolina where the Southern Trout Eaters guys were. And, dude, all those guys filmed Southern Trout Eaters, Matt Peters, Jeremy Pratt, Brad Rutherford. And then like they just dipped. And here I am, I got hurt. And then I'm like, holy cow. Like they just left a huge market that needed to be filled by a fishing guide. You have like, dude, literally it's like 6,000 vacation homes on lakes in Western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, and North Georgia. And there's not any guide service servicing people who are coming up to the mountain lakes. So I had just I'd gotten her playing baseball. Eric had showed me Southern Trout Eaters. And I was like, oh, I know a couple of these guys. And then I'm like, I'm going to try to make this happen. So I just created a little brochure and just started putting in all these vacation rental houses. And then, dude, the first year I booked like 200 trips. And I'm like, I think I'm onto something. And then the next year I didn't know anything about like cost structure, expenses, insurances, all this stuff. So I'm like, it's cool. I'm like rolling around with cash in my pocket, but like I'm pretty broke after I like pay for fuel, buy some baits, and then I'm broke again. And then I have another trip. So I'm like, I need to go up on my prices. So I started going up on my prices and then started doing more marketing. And then I'm like, holy cow, like 350 trips later, I'm like, I've got a business, a sustainable business. And then I'm like, all right, so what's the next big headache for me? It was a tackle shop. I'm like, I'm buying so many baits online. I'm not getting them in time for guide trips. I'm like, I need to start a premium tackle shop. So then I went from guiding to I brought my father in as a business partner, and we started Dream Catchers Fishing Supply, which I'm rocking our little hoodie right there. But Dream Catchers Fishing Supply. And then next thing was like we were always working on boats and everything. And I'm like, holy cow, now we need to start a rigging part of this business. So literally Dream Catchers evolved from just a guide business to then a premium tackle shop. You know, we deal with a lot of big swim baits, premium JDM gear. And then, you know, now we're rigging boats full time too. So, you know, I think literally yesterday we installed 2 trolling motors, rigged up a whole Garmin setup on a deal, had 2 guide trips with guys that were going out, and then, you know, serviced, you know, 50 customers in the store with tackle stuff. So, you know, that's cool. And that's, once again, you know, thinking about, once again, dream catchers, like we aspire to help people reel in their dream catch, whether it's rigging their boat, their dream boat, whether it's a dream catch out on the water on a guide business, or helping them in the tackle shop, you know, equipping them to go out and reel in their dream catch. Like that is dream catchers as a whole. So, you know, this whole story really of mine is just like solving problems. You know, Eric told me this one time, if you're passionate enough about something, you'll want to understand everything. And if you understand everything, you'll understand where problems are. If you understand where the problems are, you can figure out solutions. And if you figure out solutions, a lot of times there's financial compensation around. That's exactly right. There's financial compensation around solutions. So for me, it was like there was no guide service. We need to solve that problem. Guide service. There was no good tackle shop. Solve that problem. There was no good boat rigging place. Solve that problem. And then, you know, it ran into another problem. I get people just beating me over the head for intellectual property all the time. And that's where this kind of new business has developed. And yeah, just problem solving.
Well, dude, I think that's you couldn't make a perfect segue to what we want to talk about with fishing
Yeah.
tips.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let it loose. Like, tell people what this is about, why you started it, and kind of we'll trickle into that.
Absolutely. So Bailey, literally as a guide, I've been doing this for a decade, 10 years, dude. I'm 29 years old. I started my business when I was 19. For a decade, I've been guiding, and everybody and their mama, we catch giant fish. We post them on the Instagram. We post them on the YouTube channel. They always ask me one question: where should I go and what should I throw? So I guess that's 2 questions. I was like Joe Biden right there. They always ask me 5 questions. Where should I go?
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, sorry. And anyways, I got 2 words: made in America.
Yeah.
So anyways, you know, everyone always is asking me, hey, you know, how'd you catch those fish? Where'd you go? Hey, I'm going out with my dad tomorrow. How'd you catch those fish? And I'm always like, hey, you know, do you want to come by the guides, or you want to come by the tackle shop? No, I don't have time. Do you want a guide trip? No, you know, I can't afford a guide trip. And I'm like, all right, so you want my intellectual property, you want my secrets, but you're a socialist. You want them for free. And I've worked my freaking tail off for a decade on these lakes, 300 freaking days a year, grinding on the water, scanning, no telling how much money and fuel to figure out, and my personal time to figure out how I'm catching these fish. So they want my intellectual property. So what I would do is I'd say, hey, let me create a tip for you and I'll sell it to you. So I'd be like, hey, for $150, I'll tell you where to go and what to throw. And they say, deal. So they would, you know, I'd run their credit card in the store and then I do this. Well, I ended up having a guy named Adam Bloomston. He's an entrepreneur out of Atlanta, and he asked me to take him on a trip. So I said, okay, cool. So we went out in Glenville and just smashed big smallmouth on a big swim bait. And he's like, dude, I want to book a trip like next week with you. And I said, Adam, I'm booked up till the rapture, bro, like literally 4 months out. And he says, all right, well, I have my own bass boat. I heard you sell tips. Can you put a tip up and I'll buy it from you for $200? I said, deal. So he paid me $200. I sent him a tip like, hey, you know, when it got closer, I'm like, hey, looking at the weather, it looks like there's going to be a wind out of the west. It's going to be overcast. It was pre-spawn. So I was like, man, I would be fishing Western Shore banks, Kitech, A-rigs, jerk baits. I'd look for these little deals. There's these little terrain features on your panop or on your topography. And then, use your forward facing and you can dial them in. So anyways, he went out and had an unbelievable day with his son Strick. And he goes, hey, can you meet me for dinner tomorrow night and talk about this tip? And I'm like, oh Lord, he didn't catch him. And anyways, I go up to the house and he goes, dude, we ended up smashing him yesterday. He goes, how often are you selling tips? And I said, oh, I'm probably selling like 2 or 3 tips a week, to people that are like, hey, I've got a tournament. I haven't been able to pre-fish, or hey, I'm going out with my son. I've never been to the lake. We just want to go catch some fish. And here's the deal. As a guide, the only time that I make money, bro, is when I'm on the water. It's terrible. And it's like, it really limits your earning potential. And, who's the big investor guy there? Why can't I think of his name? Anyways, he said, if you don't find a way to make money while you're sleeping, you'll work until you die. And so
sounds like a Mark Cuban quote.
Say what?
Sounds like a Mark Cuban quote.
No, it was Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett said, if you don't figure out how to make money while you're sleeping, you'll work until you die. So for me as a guide, the only way I'm making money is being on the water and being on the water and being on the water. So he's like, well, dude, I'm an IT guy. He goes, why don't we create an app or a website around guides selling fishing tips? He said, do you think this is a common problem among all your fishing guide buddies and highly dialed in tournament anglers? And I'm like, yes, all of us run into the same problem. We all get freaking beat over the head from high school anglers, from total strangers, from whoever. Like, hey, or they're people who want a guide trip and have their own boat or stuff. I just can't service them because I'm already so booked up and I have a life. And like, dude, before I would be like, hey, 2-3 trips a day, I don't even care. But now I've got a kid. So having a guide trip in the morning, and then I'm like, I want my afternoon with my child, but like I need to be on the water to make money. So how do I further monetize my hard work and intellectual property? So we've created fishtips.com, FISHTIPS, fishtips.com. And you can literally, highlight it and then hit the share button and then like click it on your home screen. So, it looks like an app, but it's fishtips.com. And let's see. Whoops.
We'll have it linked for everybody here as well.
That logo right there. Can you see it? It looks like a little fish.
Too. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So anyways, that's our logo, fishtips.com. And if you go on it, literally as a guide or as a tournament angler, Bailey, be honest with me. When you see your boys posting big pictures, don't you wonder, I wonder how he caught that?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, there's certainly people that catch it and you're like, damn, I'd love to know how he caught that.
Exactly, dude. I'm a guide and I'm like, oh, man, he smashed him today. Or even like my customers didn't catch him really good. Or heck, maybe I just went out to try to figure something out and I didn't catch him really good and someone else beats their teeth in. And I'm like, I wonder how they did that, Yeah. And here's the deal. Some people will put their money where their thoughts are. So literally we created fish tips where guys can go on and sell a tip. So you put up a hero shot, you talk about the conditions, you talk about the technique, and then there's a Google mapping feature where you can drop waypoints or talk about areas. And then literally you sell it. You put it out there for $100, $75, $200. And then, you can share it to your social media. We also have it where it's a searchable feature right now. So literally someone could type in Lake Lanier, spotted bass, artificial bait, and the most recent tips that fall under that criteria pop up first. So, guides and dudes who are out there that are having success can go out and post these tips. And it's pretty freaking awesome. We already have guys that have made, like, we've been out for literally like 4 weeks. We already have a few guys that have made over $1,000 on the platform. And I think this is here's the deal. Back to my one thought as like earning potential in the fishing industry. And you freaking know this, dude, you have to have multiple streams of revenue to make it in this industry.
Yeah.
These jokers that are like, yeah, I'm going to fish professionally and try to get professional fishing to pay for professional fishing. I'm like, no, don't take offense to this. You're a crackhead. I'm like,
it is not going to happen.
$1,500 in entry fees, $1,500 between lodging, fuel, and food a week when you're fishing these tournaments. And then you may not even make your money back if you have a good finish.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. Yeah. So, and never mind if you went to the lake and pre-fished before and all this other stuff. So anyways, it's like, Okay, you need multiple sources of revenue. So a lot of guys are guiding, a lot of guys have affiliate marketing deals, whatever it is. And then, like, here's the deal, dude. Now you go out, you sell tips. And here's the thing, people that are buying these tips, they can literally, the tip is blurred out, the whole thing's blurred out. They see the hero shot in the title, and if somebody wants to buy it, when they buy it and transact, and then that's when the tip is unlocked and they're able to see the juice of the tip. So, it's pretty sick. And I think it's a great way. Like I said, a lot of guys are already making money. And then on the flip side of it, so that's as a seller, as a buyer,
Right.
like this guy that I sold the tip to, him and his son, dude, they freaking went out and caught fish. Or maybe it's a high school angler. This was a couple days ago. A father had reached out and said, "Hey, I've never seen this specific lake. My son's got a high school tournament. I would book a guide trip with you. I saw you're booked up. Can you sell a tip?" And I said, "Yep." So I created a tip. It was the winning school of smallmouth on this specific body of water.
Oh, damn.
And he bought the tip, and they literally, his son ended up finishing second out of 120 boats. And he said he said it was the best memory of my life with my son.
You can't beat that.
Dude, and I'm like, put a price tag on that. Put a price tag on it. I
Can't.
literally was
Yeah.
able to help guys reel in a dream catch through selling a fishing tip. So, a lot of guys have been like, oh, I'm not selling my secrets. And I'm like, one, dude, it's 2023. Everyone has forward facing sonar. Everybody's a YouTuber. Everybody tells their
Yep.
stuff. Like, there's no secrets. There are very, and I mean very few secrets left in this industry. What is the most important thing is the most recent dialed in information. And that's where fish tips comes into play.
Yep.
It's recent, it's dialed in. When when you search a fishing report and it's like, yeah, they could be in 40 foot of water and they could be in 4 foot of water and they could be in 15 foot of water on grass. And you're like, okay, great. You just narrowed down the whole freaking lake,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like, well, now, holy cow, like this guy was out yesterday. He found a big school of bait in this bay. He said there was some smallmouth around it. Like, he was out there yesterday and said it was a big school of bait. Chances are they're going to be there tomorrow, and obviously sometimes they're not. Like, they're fish and they move and everything. But a lot of people are just
Yeah.
looking for a little shot of confidence. They need a little shot of confidence, and then they can get out on the water and have success. And that's what this platform provides. It's guys that have confidence selling guys that need a little boost of confidence to have success.
Yeah, and that's a question that I have for you. So I'm sure some folks are sitting there like, man, I don't really want to go and tell what bait and where, what time, and the waypoints and everything. And like, how far do you have to go? And like, is there like levels? Like, can you expose as much as you want to expose? Like, how does it work in regards to the information standpoint?
So I've been telling guys, because a lot of people that have been using the platform so far are asking me like, okay, what would you charge for this? Or what would you charge for that? And I say, simple answer right here. What would you buy what you're about to sell for? What would you
Yeah,
buy it
like
for?
what are you willing to take for somebody to get your info?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So listen, dude, if it's like a mega school, like a winning school of big smallmouth, or a mega school of whatever, and it's just an incredible bite, dude, for me, I'm like, I think that's worth 250 or $300. Now, if it's like, dude, it's springtime, you can go down the bank with a wacky rig, I that's probably a $20-$25 tip. Where if it was like, hey, I've got a brush pile, well, there's 25 pounds of spotted bass loaded on it, I'd be like that. I'd personally be willing to pay like $200 or $300 for that deal, where I'd be
Right.
willing to pay 20 or $25. But guys can sell whatever they want, man. Whether it's like, hey, I caught him really good at this lake on this specific bait, and then just sell the bait and say, hey, I was focusing on like, secondary points, and then, kind of be generic, but you got to understand you probably should charge a generic price for that.
Yeah.
And like I said, eventually, like, this is still super early, but eventually we're going to have a rating system where, and listen, I know people struggle at fishing. I guide people that go out the next day and struggle, and they're like, man, the fish aren't there anymore. Like, it's still part of fishing. But, if you're selling bull crab tips, like,
Yeah.
really, the thing about this, and this is what I wanted to talk about too, this is a platform for highly reputable guides, highly reputable anglers. And you don't have to be an MLF pro. You don't have to be a full-time guide like myself or Andy. You can be a weekend warrior that has a deal figured out. But just understand, like, your reputation's on the line. If you sell crummy tips, word's going to get out that, hey, that guy's a scam,
Yep.
So, but if you're selling something generic for $15, like, dude, I mean, throw a wacky rig down the bank, fish a wacky rig around docks, fish a wacky rig around laydowns. Like, that's a $20, $25 tip. And I've had no problem selling
Yeah.
a lot of those tips. Where on the flip end, we're also creating a product that you can limit how many tips are sold. So maybe it is the winning deal. And maybe you're like, I don't want really anyone to know about this, but I'll sell it to one person at $300 and then $300. And then that's it. Only they know about it. So you can control the supply, which means you can control the demand of the tip.
Be kind of interesting to have like an auction for it.
Dude, we've thought about that too, but we're still super early. Like right now, there's a lot of traction and everything, and we're seeing some unbelievable metrics as a business. But it's still super early. There's not a lot of buyers that know. But dude, I mean, you should go on, if you type in any lake and type in Lake Oneida, it'll say fishing report. So eventually we're going to use search engine optimization, to get like, hey, Fish Tips is the best fishing report because these are guys that were out yesterday beating their eyeballs in. And so you're buying really dialed in fishing reports essentially, because when I first started, I was like, hey, you can buy my waypoints or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, you're selling waypoints. That sounds nasty. And it's like, well, I'm a guide. Like, I take people to my waypoints every day.
Yeah, it's literally my job.
That blew my mind. People are like, oh, you're selling waypoints. And I'm like, yeah, but I've sold about 10,000 over the course of my guiding career, bro. Yeah. Like I guide people to my waypoints every day.
Yeah.
So
newsflash, this is what guides do.
Yeah, this is what guides do. So that was hilarious. We sent out a survey. This is like, listen, I love people, but people are funny. Dude, 90% of people, we had 500 people take the survey. 90% of them, right? So 450 people thought guiding was a dream job. Okay. The next question was, would you be willing to sell your waypoints? And 60% of the people said yes.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, guys, what do you think guiding's a dream job? Like, you aspire to be a guide, but then like that also means you do have to sell waypoints. Like, that's part of it. But even still, like, I think people listen, oh my gosh, I'm about to I'm probably going to get under someone's skin with this. Other people know your waypoints, bro. Sorry. I hate to tell you this. Everything's a community hole now.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Literally, it has to do with where they are in the moment. I've learned this. Most of fishing now is decisions and timing. Okay, there's not like, dude, when any lake I go to, like, everybody knows the brush piles. You know why? Because topography shows it's a point. Everyone has forward-facing sonar. They found the brush. They found the rock vein. They found, like, everybody knows these little secret holes. So now it comes down to recent timing. Like, was there a school of fish there today? Will they be there tomorrow? And so forth. So, like I said, there's not many secrets left. Everybody gets really worked up about my fishing hole. Look, there's 500 people that know about your fishing hole.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing nowadays, is that with technology and social media and YouTube and all this, is the learning curve in regards to getting information is so much more accelerated now than it was, say, 5 or even 10 years ago. But something like this with Fish Tips is in regards to, you have all this information, but people that are still, only a couple of years into fishing don't know how to piece together that information. They can have all the good information they need to go and do what these tournament level or these top pros, top guides are doing, but they don't know how to piece them together, and that's what makes it a expert angler from just your novice.
100%.
Yeah, and so something like this is exactly the breadcrumbs that somebody can need to put that together. And
that's exactly right.
You were mentioning something that I think, as creators nowadays, whether it's you do YouTube or you do, like, I think about a Ben, which Ben is now morphing into the jack of all trades, fishing the opens, but like a guide like yourself that also does YouTube, things of that nature, where you're like, you can sell the tip, but hey, there's this bait, and like, hey, if you're going to pick up this bait, like, I'm thinking, like, if you work with Omnia or different online tackle retailer, or like you with your own tackle shop, you're like, hey, I got them here. You can save yourself like 10% on this. Use my code. bing, bing, bing.
Dude, you
You're
can
kind of
link
double dipping.
you can link all your personal information and all the tips. So if you want to like, if you're like, hey, if you have an affiliate marketing deal with a specific online tackle shop, or for me, I have my, dreamcatchersfishing.com,
Right.
I can link all that stuff within the tip. So not only are people buying your intellectual property, but then hopefully they're going to further want to be serviced by you. And yeah, man, so you hit the nail on the head with that. That is great thinking.
Yeah. I mean,
Bailey's a genius, guys. Bailey's a freaking
no,
genius.
I'm sure everyone has already thought of that the entire show. I'm sure people are already doing it. Oh man, but dude, I like this a lot because I think it's a weird feeling when you get a DM because it's like you almost feel bad a little bit, but also a little bit annoyed, but also you want to help them at the same time. When someone DMs
Dude,
you and they're like, "Hey, dude, how'd you catch him? Like, where you go?" Like, there's a difference, though. I will say there's two different types of DMers. Someone that's genuine in like learning and like curious
yeah,
how you caught him, and then there's people that strictly just want your spots.
of
And I have
course,
I have no care to help people that just want my spots, but the
of
people that
course.
are interested in learning and everything, like that, also still want to know like where you caught them. I
Yeah,
think this is a great remedy to because you kind of feel bad a little bit because you're like, man, I worked pretty hard for that stuff. Like, I
of
put a lot of
course,
time and effort into figuring this out. But
dude.
like, this is a nice remedy to like, hey, look, I put the time in. Don't mean to disrespect, but like, if you want to know this stuff, here's this fish
I
report.
mean,
You
dude,
can buy it.
this is literally how I put food on the table for my family. Like, this is how I provide. So when people message me and they're like, "Hey, what lake did you catch them at?" and I'm like, do you
That's
want to book a
tough.
guide trip? No. Do you want to come by the tackle shop? No. I'm like, all right, well, it's really awkward. I'm like, look, I don't want to be am I allowed to cuss?
You're good. Let it rip.
I don't want to be an asshole.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to be that guy. I don't want to be like, freaking dude, get out of here. But now, because it's awkward, and then some guys try to do the dance. They're like, hey, how's Molly? How's your son Isaac? How are you
I
guys
was playing
doing?
the nice card.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm like, dude, you don't freaking care about, dude, you don't care about my family. You
Yeah.
literally want my intellectual property. You want to know how to go catch him. And listen, and I understand it. It's all good, but like, it puts me in an awkward position because I'm like, once again, like you're asking me to divulge what I've spent years and years and years trying to perfect. So it's worth something. It'd be the equivalent of going and like, hey, I've got a cavity, and going to a dentist and saying, can you go get can you fix this for free? The dentist would be like, uh, no,
Sorry, bro. No.
yeah, no, or anything, dude. Like going to the tire shop and being like, hey, I've got my tires on. I bought the tires, but can you put them on? They're like for free. They're like, uh, no. Like it's this weird, you're like, why would you do that? But in fishing, it's apparently this okay thing because it's intellectual property, and anglers don't know what our value is to just say, hey, how'd you catch him? And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, hey, oh, hey. And some people are, like me, love to talk, and I'm just like, let me spill the beans. But I'm
Yeah.
like, it always puts me in an awkward spot. So I'm like, listen, no offense to you, but if you really want to know, here it is for $50 or $100, or you want to know that lake where we caught. Listen, there's one lake, and we have footage out there. It's nuts. Epic Eric and I had 28 pounds post spawn in the Carolinas / Western North Carolina / North Georgia. But this specific lake I went to 8 times in a row, and we had between 25 and 30 pounds post spawn fish. And everyone's like, what lake are you on? And I'm like, you can buy it. I'm not telling you. It took me 5 years to figure out how to access the lake, and it's a public lake.
Yeah.
I'm like, it took me 5 years to figure out how to access the lake. It's public. And but anyways, just like these people just want stuff for free. And I'm like, hey, if you're a socialist, move to Russia.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's one of the issues I think still I wouldn't say it's an industry problem, but I think it's an angler problem. It's more of a psychological deal where it's like, for whatever reason, if someone feels like because you caught them, they feel like they owe you an explanation of how you caught them, and it's like, dude, you're not trying to be a jerk. You're not trying to
No.
be. And I think that's the one thing that people try to demonstrate, and I've heard many folks, when they have either conversation with somebody on the water or it's over social, it's like, look, I put hours and hours and hours of time into this.
Totally.
It's like I worked hard for this. No offense. I'm not going to tell you. Like, it's
Yeah,
kind of the one thing that's like, hey, you could go beat me in the next derb next weekend if I tell you this information, where it's like, this could be my moneymaker. You know what I mean?
totally.
This is a nice remedy if, as for guides, for creators, because I mean, I'm sure like, you did a great video with Ben Milliken on his
Yeah,
channel with Milliken's like, dude, I get bombarded with asking, where'd you catch that fish? All this jazz. I'm sure he gets it out the whozo. And so this is a great way for him to make a little pocket change on the side of like, here's the glide I was throwing on this lake. You can kind of get a good basis of that. Like,
totally.
this is great for every type of angler that gets these kinds of inquiries.
Of course.
So I love this. And like we mentioned, I think there's people that if you're savvy from a business standpoint, you can really take advantage of it from
Of course.
multiple different facets. It's another marketing ploy that you can do for your partners, that sort of deal.
Yep.
But I like it a lot, man. So for folks that may be wondering, so can you go on this and say, I'm gonna give tips of like this time of year or this month if the fish are doing this, throw this bait on this type of structure, or focus on this when you see this telltale signs, throw this. But I don't want to give a waypoint. Can I do that? Is that
Yeah,
possible?
you can totally do that. I mean, like I said, this is a free market. We're putting the ball, man. Once again, we want to empower entrepreneurs. So we want guys to use this how they want to use it. If they want to sell specific waypoints, man, like on Lake Chatuga, everybody knows all the brush piles. There's certain brush piles they're just on and whatever. I can sell all those. Other people, they already know. Most people already know what it is. I'd have no problem selling community holes. But if it's something really dialed in, like I don't want to tell anyone, totally. And you could say, hey, look, I caught the fish on a 3.3 Kitech with a quarter ounce head on a rock pile, secondary points, and just say, hey, that was it, just secondary points, and like leave it up to the angler. But dude, just that little nugget is a great starting spot for a guy
Oh
that's
yeah.
never been to a lake to be like, man, okay, that guy was throwing it. So like if the fish are backing back out, maybe they're pulling out to the main lake, or maybe it's calm or whatever. They might be roaming out in the middle of the pocket or whatever it is. Maybe there's a stump field in the back that's their transition to, just something to get the guys going. So absolutely, I'm telling guys, you don't have to sell your juice. I think so many people, and then of course, Ben and I go out and smash 43 pounds and put up a tip for $500, and which he sold by the way.
Yeah.
But he made some sales around it. But everyone's like, golly, I have to put out some Mac Daddy tip. And I'm like, dude, my dad just went to Florida with some friends to Headwaters, had no idea where to start. He ended up taking a guide. So dad fished 5 different lakes in 7 days. And he said he took one guide trip on Headwaters and they did okay. But he said, I would have rather have bought, instead of spending $600 on one trip, I would have rather spent $100 on 6 different tips for each lake.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm like, boom, that totally makes sense, and obviously we're new, so we don't have guides in all these specific lakes and markets yet. But I'm like, someone out there, my dad was willing to pay somebody $100 to point him in the right direction for each specific lake, rather than just giving $600 to the one guy on one lake and he's going to fish 4 other lakes while he's there.
Yeah.
So
And I think to that point too, like creators from this standpoint, or that people that could use fish tips with their guides, tournament anglers, etc. I don't think, like to your point, like I don't want to give out this crazy big juice every single time.
no,
There are like, I'm not talking basic, but there are things that if like an angler like yourself, with the experience that you have, the knowledge you have, there are things that might seem so like very like, yeah, duh, like general to you that you've learned over the years, that to someone that is looking to buy tips like this is like, holy crap, I had no idea. Or like something that's simple that
totally.
clicks for them, that helps them, one, learn, that make it like their money is well spent. And 2, I think for somebody like yourself, they're like, oh shoot, I can recommend this guy. Like I learned so much from this guy. I'll recommend
Yep,
him as a guide. But hey, he's also got a YouTube channel. I'm gonna become a fan of this guy. And it's like kind of like boom, where it's like if I'm gonna go back and get tips again, I know I learned a lot, and this guy helped me catch fish. You're gonna come
totally.
back. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
dude.
love it.
Well, and even as a guide, I have to put myself in that situation. Like for me, most people know Dream Catchers as a big swim bait channel. We like throwing GRT stuff, Hinkle stuff. Like that's what we like to do. I was even at Rick Steckelberg, who makes the bite-sized herring, one of the original swim bait makers like ever. I was in his house yesterday, and we were talking about I want to like jack them on big swim baits and catch these mega bags always. And sometimes, dude, my customers just want to go cut up and throw a dang Ned rig, and I have to adjust. I can't project my perspective into their perspective. Right. So just back to what you're saying, like where I'm like, oh, this ain't nothing special. We're just catching, 20 fish on a Ned rig around docks. Like to somebody, that's revolutionary information to be able to go and have success. And dude, a father with a 9-year-old son, you kidding me? 20 fish on a Ned rig sounds like he's Superman,
Yeah.
So yeah, once again, like I'm telling guys, dude, you can sell as basic stuff as you want. I'm just simply saying there's a market of people who want information, that need a little boost of confidence, that need help. And there's guys that have that information and can monetize it. And that's where Fish Tips makes the two come together.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
so I think it's going to change. I think it's really going to change fishing. And like I said, for me, when I think about Dream Catchers in my business, I want to see people succeed. I want to see guys like you. I want to see anglers, man. I want to see guys like pursue their dream of being a full-time fisherman. And I know you need multiple streams of revenue. Fish Tips plays into everybody's business model. And at the same time, I want to see a father and son go have success. If my son and I were going out to Lake of the Ozarks and I'd never been there before, and I'm like, man, if I could buy $100 tip for Isaac and I to go swack a couple smallmouth and spotted bass, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for folks, whether you're looking to see what information is out there that you could purchase, or for people that are interested in like, hey, I get these kind of inquiries, I want to get involved in this, I will drop all the links down there for folks. I know Austin mentioned it earlier in the show, but for people to make it easy for you, go down the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this. It'll be in the show notes. Just drop below, click the link. You can go log in, get started. And then, of course, Austin, the nice guy he is, will, if you have any questions, I'm sure they can reach out to you. And
that's right.
Perfect.
Make it happen.
And we'll have all of Austin's social media and all that jazz as well down below. Highly encourage you guys to tap into his media, as well as if you're in the area, go book a guide trip, see the tackle shop.
That's
get over there. Dude, total sidebar, completely left field, but have you ever watched Ted Lasso?
I'm moderately familiar. Is he the guy from Horrible Bosses? Is he in the movie Horrible Bosses, or I don't know? I don't think I've ever seen. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
Dude, okay, I gotta pull it up here, and you ever heard the guy named Roy Kent, one of the actors in it? Dude, you are a doppelganger.
He must be a handsome son of a gun.
Dude, I swear to God, you guys look exactly the same.
That is awesome. Yeah,
Let me pull it up.
Pull it up.
I am. Let's see. Let me see. I share my screen here. Dude, y'all are the same.
That's my guy, dude.
Your doppelganger, man.
Brett Goldstein. That's crazy. That guy. So this is no joke. He's actually my cousin. No, that is a joke. Actually, that was a joke. I'm a fisherman.
My cousin didn't even tell me he's an actor.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That is so funny.
Well, for folks that are Ted Lasso fans, if you're listening to this, I'm talking to Roy Kent, actually. Roy Kent,
baby.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Well, dude, on the fishing side, kind of going back down this path.
Let's go.
How did you get into swim baiting? Like, is that an Eric problem that started that?
Well, so dude, literally, I'm playing baseball at the time. I'd gotten hurt. I had tore my labrum for the second time. I knew my baseball career was done, and I had been like fishing the lakes up in the mountains, and I had run into some guys throwing some big swim baits, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. All these trout that are in the rivers end up in the lakes, and these guys are targeting these fish. Well, Eric, when I go back home, is like, hey, dude, have you seen the Southern Trout Eaters DVD? And I'm like, no. And it was these guys smash them. I'm like, holy cow, I met them. Like, I met a couple of these guys. So then they all left, and I'm like, dude, I've got to try this, And I go out there, and legitimately, this is no joke, my first ever big swim bait fish was a 9-pound, 2-ounce largemouth on a triple trout during the herring spawn. I'm burning a triple trout over a point. I'm using like a musky rod and an ambassador reel like a moron. And I'm like, oh God, I got a giant, dude. Freaking thing comes up with a mouth like a bucket. gets it in the net. My buddy headbutts me and gives me a scar, dude. Literally, I'm bleeding, like blood coming down my face. It looks like we just got in war or something. And I'm like, holy cow, this is nuts. And I just immediately had confidence, like, I need to do this. I ended up catching a 4.5-pound smallmouth like 5 or 6 casts later. And I'm like, holy cow, this is unbelievable. So then I started glide bait fishing, and then I started throwing a HUD. And dude, I just developed so much confidence so fast with these things. Like, I was fishing with a S Waver as my first ever glide bait, S Waver 200 and light trout. I'm like reeling it slow on this rock wall, and I'm like, that's a giant behind it. It comes up and goes and eats it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a 9-pounder.
Oh
You know,
God.
the whole rat deal. I literally, my first ever cast with a rat, I throw it over a lay down, a 5-pound largemouth comes up and toilet bowl flushes it. I'm like, what the heck? And anyways, I just developed this crazy confidence with it. In fact, when we finished second at Watts Bar in the Bassmaster College series back when it was Bass Fest and Jacob Wheeler had won Bass Fest on Chickamauga, dude, we were throwing a triple trout. And no joke, in day one of practice, there was a gizzard shad spawn. They were like hand sized, spawning on all these dock floats. I would take a triple trout and roll it down these marinas, dude, and we had 30 some pounds. It was unbelievable. The first day of the tournament, we had like 20 pounds, and the second day we had a nasty thunderstorm, lightning and everything. It was crazy. Our bite ended up kind of being done. But dude, I just started swim baiting and loving it. And all of our lakes are really clear water, so you can see the fish really well when they come up and track it. And you know, there's just so much draw power. But I fell in love with swim bait fishing. And yeah, man, being a guide, and listen, I get really excited when people catch their PBs, whether it's a 3-pounder, whether it's a 6-pounder, whatever. I get excited. But for me, I'm like, I watch customers fish conventional Ned rig, drop shot, wacky rig, so much shaky head. I want to go throw a big swim bait, you know? So
You get that itch.
yeah, dude. So, you know, I freaking like going out there with what by myself or with some friends and just going out and chucking big baits and seeing what we can
Yeah.
catch. Last year we had a customer catch the biggest bass ever caught on film in North Carolina. It was an 11.5-pounder, caught it on a DRT Clash 9. And we actually have a custom Dream Catchers color coming out soon, our brown trout. So really excited about
Damn.
that.
Dude, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Well, dude, so like say a client wants to go out and catch fish on swim baits, or they want to at least like learn more about swim bait fishing,
Yeah.
technique, all that jazz. What's your approach to one, trying to teach that, but then two, trying to put a client on like the fish of their lifetime?
Yeah. So I'll sell you a fish tip on that. But no, I'm kidding. So
Okay.
no, honestly, you know, when I think about patterning fish are always doing something seasonally. So it's like, okay, what are they doing? And then what's a swim bait that I can get a customer to throw to kind of mimic? So maybe it's a shad spawn situation and the fish would absolutely tear up a top water or a fluke. Okay, what's a swim bait that can work in that kind of scenario, you know? And I look at like a DRT Clash 9 in glide mode or a tiny Clash in glide mode, or I look at you know, a bite-sized herring or a Farley's herring or a sweet baits or whatever, and just I'm always thinking about a seasonal pattern and a bait that matches kind of what you would fish conventionally. So in the summertime or in the wintertime rather, what works really good, like dragging a jig really slow on the bottom or like slow rolling an A-rig. That's exactly how you'd fish a Huddleston or something. So just getting people to understand, like, hey, you can use big swim baits seasonally by matching the hatch and figuring out what these fish are doing, and then just matching the action of the bait to how you would fish conventionally. I mean, it's literally like that in the summertime when they're cracking top water, or whether it's the springtime and they're eating a jerk bait. What's a bait that goes back and forth and kind of pauses? A big glide bait, you know? So, you know, just kind of putting swim baits in your brain and in the realm of what you would be doing conventionally. And that's what we do. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Where it's like if you're going fishing laydowns, you're throwing a spinner bait, like trying to find a bait instead that can just give off a bigger profile. Like you
totally.
mentioned a rat earlier, or like on a point, you're throwing a jerk bait, throw a glide instead, and that type of deal. That
A
makes
hundred
perfect sense.
percent. I tell people, dude, this is no joke. The back when it was crazy. I mean, it can be pretty crazy, but on a specific lake in the mountains, I'm like, it was my first day out with a Huddleston in like a long time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna turn my brain off and pretend this Huddleston is a spinner bait. I'm gonna throw it parallel in docks, parallel in laydowns. Dude, we went out and caught 36 pounds. They would not touch a spinnerbait that day, by the way, because I had a buddy who was conventionally fishing, wouldn't touch it. But we had a mega bag, absolutely nuts. We got the whole thing on film. It's on the Dreamcatchers Fishing channel. But literally, I'm like, I'm just going to treat this HUD. I'm going to reel it just like a spinnerbait, dude. I'm going to throw it up in a laydown. I'm going to reel it out. And it was like 8-pounder, boom, 7-pounder, boom, coming out and eating it. Which, by the way, those are small fish in Texas. I just wanted to throw that out there. But
Make us
anyway.
Northerners feel bad.
Dude, this is no joke. So I'm down there with Ben, and we smashed a big bag, 43 pounds. The lakes are different down there, dude. We see a guy, and he's like, I'm like, you catching them, hero? And he's like, son, it's been a slow day. We only caught 2 7s and a bunch of 5s. And I'm like, I'll jump in your boat and punch you in your nose. Talking about slow day. I'm like, what
that's messed up.
Yeah.
You get a 5 up here in the north, and they're like, man, you caught a giant today.
I know. It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that, so we're going to start wrapping up here in a little bit. I do have one last question after we start talking about this. That's a wrap up the show anyway. You and Ben had an all interesting run-in with an old cat down there.
Dude, literally, we get to the lake. We're doing our thing. It was blistery cold. We didn't think we would see another boat out there. We pulled to the boat ramp, and there's a fellow that's there. And anyway, so we run to the deal. Ben says, hey, there's this big school of offshore fish, and they're on this roadbed in about 18 foot of water. And, we literally sit the boat down. Ben makes a cast. We don't see anything follow with a glide or a jerk bait. So he throws a Carolina rig. And I'm not kidding. Dude, this guy sits his boat down like I'm confused. Like where that door is. He just sits his boat down. And I'm like, hey, bud, you fish here much? And then he takes his dang pecker out of his pants, essentially. He's like, son, this is my parking spot up there. And I've been fishing the lake 5 days a week for 25 years. And I'm like, here we freaking go.
Yeah.
And
got one of these jabronis.
He said, where are you boys from? And I'm like, I'm just going to feed this guy some love. I'm like, I'm from Canada. And he's like, well, what you doing down here? And dude, there's a way to do it. Like, listen, as a fisherman, I have done this one time where I have sat the boat down in front of somebody and they were behind a dock bed fishing. I had no idea they were there. And the guy got pissed off at me. I'm like, bro, sorry, I'm leaving. I didn't even see you. You can imagine there's like a giant dock between you and me. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. My bad. But this guy just blatantly sits his boat down. And then, dude, I don't know if he had never heard sarcasm or not, but we just say something, the guy would just go with it, totally over his head the whole time. And anyways, he's like, he's totally showing us how big his nutties were because he's like, look at my camera, how many big fish I've caught. And I'm like, oh, here we go. He like rolls right up on the boat. I start panning through his dang pictures. And
no way,
dude. Yeah, you didn't see this?
Was that a part of the video?
Yeah, it was at the end of the video. He pulls up to us again and he's like, look at all these big ones I've been catching out here. And he's like, here's my camera. So I start scrolling through it and just messing with him. I'm like, who's this naked woman? I said, is this your wife? And he's like, there you go, pictures of my wife on there.
Oh my God. How did he not pick it up? That's what I didn't understand.
Dude, literally, I'm like, hey, what? He said, yeah, I can see a bunch of fish out there. I'm like, how? You got x-ray vision? He's like, no, I've got live scope. And I was like, live poke, not realizing when he rolled up on our boat, dude, Ben and I were both like, yeah, we've never heard of live poke. Like, what is it? And he's like, it's forward facing sonar. Ben has 2 Garmins that are 16 inches that we're looking at already. He rolled right up on the boat and doesn't even notice it. I'm like, what the heck?
You can't fix stupid, man. You can't
oh my gosh. He said literally, he's like, oh, what'd he say? He said, I've never had a cell phone or never had a TV. He goes, I pretty much just fish every day and it's all I do. And I'm like, it sounds like the life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, he's probably never going to see us just absolutely messing with him. So
yeah, if you go to this giant YouTube channel, you'll see yourself featured.
Yeah, dude. Such a goober, man. But no, it was a good time. And Ben's an unbelievable fisherman. I mean, a lot of people are like, a lot of YouTube guys can't fish. They just make content. Ben is dialed in on another level. And it doesn't hurt that he lives where the big ones are, baby.
Right.
in 10 years, we've caught 3 double digits as a guide service. We had 2 double digits in one day down in Texas. It's like that place they grow different. They've got a long growing season. They've got hydrilla. The lake's set up really cool. They've got freaking monster gizzard shad that are the size of my hand. I mean, it's just a different place. And dude, that's where the big ones live, straight up. I like deer hunting too. And one of my really good friends is like, dude, if you want to kill big bucks, you got to go to the Midwest. And I'm like, all right, deal. So we go to the Midwest this year and smash some giants in Nebraska and a couple other states. And I'm like, wow, they live out here, and that's how I felt about Texas. Everyone's like, it's a coveted double-digit bass. And I'm like, they're everywhere in Texas, bro.
It's not like, Carolinas or something where it's a lot harder to run into those suckers, or they just don't exist up here in New York.
Yeah, exactly right. Like they actually just don't exist,
Yeah, I would think New York anyway. I mean, we had a 10-pound smallmouth get caught on Lake Erie this past summer.
Unbelievable.
Which megalodon. But like we maybe could count on one hand the amount of 10-pounders that are potentially roaming our Finger Lakes right now, green wise.
Yeah, of course.
I think we definitely have one because there's a bunch of 8s that get caught. Really? I think there's got to be one because like our Finger Lakes now, like the bigger ones that have a canal system that runs to Lake Ontario, they now have gobies in them.
Okay.
So these largemouth are now spitting up gobies, which if you see what's happening to the smallmouth, it's going to happen. It's already happening to the largemouth.
That's disgusting to think about.
It's changing fisheries, though. It really is. It's changing the Finger Lakes, which is actually kind of interesting. Which, if people want to learn about that, I'll put it up on Fishing Tips.
That's right. That's right.
But it's kind of wild, man. Like it's funny. Like I was cracking jokes. We had Mike Huff on here a while ago. He's like, "Hey, man, bring some gobies down to Cherokee Lake. We could use it, use some for the fish."
Freaking right. That place is crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean it's hurting. Dude, really appreciate you taking time this morning to get on the show.
Yeah,
I think everyone is going to enjoy listening to this one, as well as people that may have not heard of Fish Tips just yet. And I think they definitely deserve to, and they need to check it out. Again, links down below.
Super early. I mean, dude, I've been telling guys we're like a month old. We're still walking through. Things look quirky. The buttons are out of place. I mean, eventually we want this to be as polished as Airbnb or Uber, but we're working through all these things right now. And like I said, a lot of guys are like, man, this is new to the market. It's weird. I'm telling guys, imagine when Airbnb came out and was like, you're going to have a stranger pay you to stay in your basement. You're like, what? It's like there's a lot of that kind of stuff still, but this is going to be something that's really special. We're really excited to bring it to the market. So
heck yeah, I'm sure Epic Eric's tackle basement is on Airbnb somewhere. I'm staying in my tackle room.
A tackle experience. He'll just rub you. He'll just rub baits on your face the whole day.
Well, dude, one last question for you that we asked for everybody that's new to the show, and that is if you could sit down, have a beer and a big old steak with 3 different individuals. They don't have to be fishing industry.
Okay.
It could be 1,000 years ago or alive today. It doesn't matter. Any 3 individuals, have a beer, steak, pick their brain. Who are you going to invite?
Yeah. So I guess first would probably be Jesus.
Gotcha.
I think what Jesus did is pretty epic. If you look at his life as a leader, whether you believe in him or not, there's something different there. And so Jesus, and then the next one would be probably my son. Give him a little beer and steak, a little 2-year-old beer and steak. Dude, I just love spending time with him. And back to the whole deal, like Fish Tips kind of came about because I didn't want to be on the water all the time. As much as I love fishing, like I just want to be there for my son. And so Jesus, my son, and then, oh man, number 3. I don't know. That one's pretty tough.
You got like a childhood hero or anything like sports wise?
I loved baseball. I played baseball at a pretty high level. I've got a lot of friends that are in the major leagues. But I mean, Cal Ripken was my coach when I was growing up. Like he's a Hall of Fame third baseman. I'm like, you can't get much better than that.
Decent coach.
Yeah,
you can learn a little bit.
Honestly, I'm gonna go with Epic Eric, bro. Just
hell yeah,
cutting up, man. Jesus, Epic Eric, and my son.
Dude, that's probably got to be the first time anyone's ever said their son.
Yeah. Well, dude, I think the world of the kid. I mean, I'm down here around Lake Lanier on a business trip, and Molly's texting me saying Isaac wants to FaceTime you. Isaac wants to FaceTime you and talk
Yeah,
about fishing. He's talking about fishing right now. And
that's
dude,
awesome.
I love my child. I always knew when I was younger I wanted to be a business owner and a father. And
Yeah,
you know, I'm 29 years old, and thankfully I'm both of those. And I've
it's
been
awesome, dude.
just very grateful for my life and my network and people that have encouraged me. And I heard a quote the other day that shook me, dude. There's other people that have walked where you're walking. There's other people that have talked where you're going to be talking. And there's people that have led where you will be leading. Let them speak life into you. And dude, it shook me. I'm like, golly, it's good to have mentors. It's good to have business people, and you know, just constantly got to stay humble and serve other people. And you know, like Eric said, baby, what you put out in the world, you're going to get back.
That's right.
So anyways, it's
Heck
all
yeah.
about it. So Bailey, I appreciate your time, man. Go crush it. I thank you so much for your platform. I thank you so much for allowing me to be on here and share my heart, share my business. And yeah, man, I hope to be back soon.
Hell
We can
yeah.
talk more, get Epic Eric on at the same time, and we'll make it happen.
You always got a seat here, dude. We definitely got to get Eric back on this show. We've been talking to him a bunch about getting him back on. I know Andy's been trying to get him on the lure lab as well to just
Oh yeah, be
dive
sick.
into that tackle knowledge of a brain.
No
Uh,
doubt.
but dude, seriously, thank you so much for taking the time. I don't have any closing show notes. So with that, I will say for the folks, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys go and follow Austin on all his socials and check out the new fish tips with the app and or website.
It's .com. It's fishtips.com. It's not an app yet, but we're working on it.
Okay, so what was it on the phone then? Because you showed the app there. Is it so you can make a website and app now?
Yeah, you can literally, if you go to any website on your Safari, so Safari, you can literally go to, let's see, so Swimbait Underground, right?
Yeah,
If I hit send, or like I click down here,
right.
whoops, not right there, Swimbait Underground. I hit that little arrow like I want to send it to somebody. And then if you scroll right here, it'll say add to home screen.
I am today years old learning this.
So hit, and it says Swimbait Underground, and then done. And then
This is gonna make life so much easier.
now right there is Swimbait Underground as an app.
Wow, I can't believe. Okay, you learned me something here. That's
So,
pretty sick. Okay, there
yeah,
you go, folks.
there you go. So it's not like a Swimbait Underground isn't an app, but now
Yeah,
it is.
that is legit. I'm today years old learning that. That's awesome. Well,
So
dude, I encourage everybody to check it out. Appreciate you taking your time, and man, we'll be talking to you soon.
awesome. Thanks a ton, Bailey. Appreciate your platform. Thanks again, Hero.
All right, folks. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week.